Right over here is where we store the ironing board and the cutting board equipment, and then naturally it will go over here on this bed, which is part of a second bedroom, but we also make it part of the sewing room or music room. Now we have a board to place the cutting mat on. Now we are ready to cut fabric. After cutting, we have an ironing board to iron things out, before or after, or in between. Over here we have a Singer machine. This will cost you about $600, and you can buy that just about anywhere. Amazon, maybe even Walmart, I don't know. Next to it, we have a Pfaff 5.2 performance machine. It's about $3,000. But you can get by just fine with the Singer. You wouldn't know the difference, but if you have both of them, naturally you're going to be using the Pfaff all the time because it's a little bit more automated. With the Singer, you have the little lever to lift the foot and lower it, like so. With the Pfaff, that item does not exist. That's done automatically. Another feature with the Pfaff is this little presser foot on the top. It's ideal for quilting or when you have multiple layers of fabric. It pushes from the top as well as at the bottom, and only a Pfaff has that feature. This is the Pfaff Creative Icon, and right now it's set up for sewing. Unlike regular sewing machines, this can also be set up for embroidering. And I'm trying to add a masculine touch to embroidery. And now it's ready to go. We can either start sewing or start embroidering. By the way, the MSRP on this particular unit is $16,000, and we had to sell the house to get it. We will now open up the input sources. This has internal memory. It uses a USB card, and it also has Wi-Fi built in so we can access the internet to download designs. For right now, I'm going to load up a design that I'm working on, and we'll show you how to create it. It wants to calibrate. Okay, and there's my design. I can shrink that down a little bit, and we'll give you a closer view of that here pretty soon. So at this point, I'll go ahead and click on Embroidery Edit, which allows me to edit the design, change it, add to it, do whatever I want to. Well, I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go directly into, well, there's the edit features. It brings up a little extra menu with things to do. I'll show you a picture of that here pretty soon. And now we're going to go to embroidery stitch out. Once I enter embroidery stitch out, I have a lot of different selections. Stitch out settings, and then sewing settings, a lot of choices to choose from, and embroidery settings. Once I got all those correct, we can continue on. For instance, hoop sizes. I have all these different hoop sizes to choose from, and I've chosen the 240 by 150. I'll say OK. I'm happy with all that information. Now we'll shrink that down so you can see the top and the bottom. There we go. And there we're ready to go. I now put the hoop in, which is already preloaded with water dissolving stabilizer. All you do is you get this wet and it just falls apart. So we can sew on that, and then after we get done sewing, we can get rid of that by just running water over it. Okay, so now we go into, we're already in the center position. This is in the exact center of my design right here. And that's right. Now, if we wanted to, we could go to the position where we go in here and cut off threads or do whatever we want to do. Now I'm going to go to actual start position, put it on slow speed, and say go. Oh, by the way, Let me show you this first. Okay, there's a little button right up here that tells it to thread the needle. And I'll press that with my thumb while you're watching, and watch what happens. The needle is threaded. It does it automatically. Not only has it threaded the needle, but it cut the thread off to the exact precise length. So when I start sewing, the thread will just disappear. Let's start. Before we continue any further, you can press this stitch out progress and see where we're at. Once again, we're now on stitch 47 of 77,859. Now I can tell this machine to go anywhere I want it to go, and it will proceed from there. So let's proceed with the sewing from this view. And if we want to, we can speed it up a little bit. Naturally, this part of this design takes a lot of thread. As I said, 77,859 stitches to create this object. Right here, we're making little eyelets that holds this structure together when we get done. Right now, we're really using a lot of thread because we're creating a 3D object that will actually stand up on its own. As you can see, we are printing a lattice structure, the outline of it. There'll be a lot more thread going into that area to make it solid to where it supports itself. If you look closely there, you can see that the on-screen display shows exactly where the needle is at all times. Also the stitch out display shows us that we're in the 21,000 stitch range out of 77,000. So there's still a long way to go. If you look in the rear of the machine, you see that little foot right there. It's moving with the mechanism. It's in the up position though, but that's one of those pressure feet that pushes the top piece of fabric along with the bottom piece so things don't get out of shape. It's excellent for quilting or when you have several layers that are not tightly tied together. You never use that during embroidery. As you can see, we are now beefing up the lattice structure on this object. As you can see, we're using up a lot of thread. In a previous project and this one together, we're just about to empty this spool out right there. The machine knows when the bobbin thread is low and automatically stops and notifies me. I simply press OK. The machine goes to center position, actually park position, and from there I can remove the hoop and change out the bobbin. Fortunately, I did have a little bit more of that color. As you can see here, we're getting pretty close to the end. Okay, we're just about getting ready to wrap this thing up. There we go, putting the last heavy ridge or border on this object to give it a strong frame. Okay, now I laid the project down on a special cloth that has that does not take the shape out of the other side of the project here. And this side, not quite as important, but I covered up with cloth. And then I come up here with an iron, and we do not want steam. It's already soaking wet. I just got through spraying the stabilizer out of it using Phyllis's water toothpick. So do that and then dry this thing out that way. You can't just let it dry out overnight, but I like to speed things up. I like to spray a little starch on this, and then we put it back on right over here. And iron it again. Now what we did is we saturated that project with starch, and we'll just let that dry overnight. We'll turn the ceiling fan on to kind of help it dry out, and then we'll also shut down all the lights. And as you can now see, the project is fairly stiff. It's got starch in it. Plus it has the stabilizer that's inside the fabric. And now I use these special pliers to pull this thing together. Here you can see I put it through one of the holes and grab a hold of one of those little pieces, and I'll be able to pull it through that way. Here we are, got part of the bottom together. And so there is the final product. So it took one full spool of thread and then part of the one you see here on the right to make both of these projects right here. Then we put candle lights in both of them. Let's see what it looks like when it's dark. Also, the pillow here was made with these sewing machines. This is a little practice session using the embroidery machine. With the cheaper sewing machine, you can accomplish just about as much as you can with the more expensive units. But when it comes to embroidery machines, it makes a lot of difference what you get based on the price you pay. The better machines do far more things and use larger hoops. This is a good example of a very large hoop, and this machine over here holds hoops larger than that. Just like with a computer, this embroidery machine will do more than any one person will ever be able to do, because it is a computer within itself. To get started with any type of sewing or embroidery machine, it takes more than just the machine itself. There's a lot of supplies you have to buy for it. Thanks for watching. That's all for now.